Welcome to Dirt Diaries, the podcast where the women of agriculture get real. From muddy boots to boardrooms, we're digging into the unfiltered stories of the FarmHers, ranchers, and every her shaping the future of ag. This isn't just shop talk, it's real talk. We're covering career paths, big wins, hard lessons, and everything in between. So whether you live it every day or you're just ag curious, pop in your earbuds and get ready. These are the raw, inspiring, and wildly relatable conversations you won't hear anywhere else. Let's dig in. Hey everyone, welcome back to Dirt Diaries. On this episode, I sit down with Dr. Liz Mergen, a nurse practitioner, flower farmer, entrepreneur, author, speaker, and host of the Rooted Agritourism podcast. Liz's story is one of resilience, reinvention, and building something beautiful from unimaginable loss. In 2020, Liz found herself facing difficult decisions about family, legacy, and the future of a fifth-generation Minnesota farm. What began as a small flower stand at the end of her driveway soon grew into a thriving agritourism destination. In this conversation, Liz shares how agriculture has always been a part of her roots, why flowers become a source of healing during grief, and how she transformed a historic family farm into a revenue-generating business designed to serve future generations. Liz offers a powerful reminder that even when life doesn't go according to plan, growth is still possible. Let's get dirty with Dr. Liz. We're just gonna kick it off, and today on Dirt Diaries, I've got a very special guest, someone who really understands the full circle, especially when it comes to agriculture and the services provided with that. And aside from that, you have your own podcast. I mean, you do a lot of speaking engagements. But Dr. Liz, just tell us a little bit about yourself and for our viewers and our listeners, who you are and, you know, all the good stuff. We want all the good stuff.
All the good stuff. Okay. Well, first of all, my name is Dr. Liz Fiedler Mergen, and I come from central Minnesota. So I'm recording here right now. It's May as we're recording this. And so we're getting ready for peony season here on our flower farm. But I am a full-time nurse practitioner turned flower farmer. And when I say flower farm, I mean we turned our farm into a full-on event venue, and we have different workshops and we host groups out here, and really leaned heavily into the agritourism piece, as well as focusing on the premium flowers, the specialty crops that are going to be the most value added agriculture, which was for us, it's wedding flowers.
Wow. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. I'm like, I can only imagine, like, and especially the agritourism, go into that a little bit more too. And then obviously you can keep telling us about yourself. But just exposing people, I mean, flowers make people happy, right? And it's beautiful, but I mean, it's a lot of work, but I mean, just having people come out there. And I believe you guys do the You Pick, right? Do you provide
we
that
do.
as well?
We do You Picks. We're actually transitioning to not do them anymore because the types of flowers that we grow are the ones that are most highly sought after by florists. And I have florists paying $5 or $6 a stem for the types of flowers that we grow. These dahlias, these peonies, my lysianthus are $4 a stem. And so we've really focused on the things that do not ship well, that cannot be imported outside the United States. So they're grown locally, and maybe they only have like a week vase life, which means from the time you pick it to the time that's in that bride's bouquet, you have a week, compared to a lot of the traditional flowers like baby's breath or roses that have been so, focused on growing them at scale for as cheap as possible from South America and then importing them in. Now with the rise of Pinterest, with the rise of, even AI, social media, everything, the expectations, sometimes we get brides with I say, you have ranunculus taste on a carnation budget, and I love you for that. But I really leaned in because my farm started out as a little farm stand at the end of my driveway, and we'll bring you back to 2020. So I was working full time as a nurse practitioner, and COVID was different in every single state, but in Minnesota, we had some of the strictest lockdown rules, meaning restaurants were closed to in-person dining. There were no concerts. Like the state was just closed. And
Wow.
so I worked in healthcare.
I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah. I worked in healthcare and I had to, I feel like this is going to be a really hot topic. Remember, it was 6 years ago and it was the time that we were in, but I was a nurse practitioner in healthcare, and it was a very, everyone's world looked a little bit different. And then my husband worked in agriculture lending. And so he was the head of sales for like 22 counties. And that was a really stressful time because we have all these farmers wanting PPP loans, or what was it? PPP, right?
PPP.
Yeah, PPP. There we go. The PPP loans, and there's, restaurants canceling their food orders because of, and so there was just a lot of things happening with a lot of chickens, a lot of pig farms, a lot of things happening. And so it was just a stressful time for him. It was a stressful time for me. And so I started this little farm stand because I had more time on my hands, and I started this cut flower garden, and I started selling flowers at the end of my driveway. And for every bouquet that we sold, we donated a second one to a nursing home. And I know that sounds so cheesy, so wholesome, but my grandma actually, that June of 2020, she passed away in a nursing home, and she had no visitors. She had no one. She moved in February and she passed away in June. And besides her children at her bedside at the last couple days, she had no visitors because everything was so locked down. And it was just really sad to me, but you could drop off flowers at nursing homes. And so for everyone that I sold, I donated a second one. And it was this like beautiful thing. I sold a couple hundred bouquets. People would just, leave money. We had a little stand, or, it was on the honor system. We never got robbed, nothing like that. And we just did that throughout the summer. Not really plans to continue growing the farm. We had purchased the property in 2016, and it was the same original farm that had been in my husband's family since 1888. So he was the fifth generation, and we bought it as a noun. Like, it's an object, it's a thing, it's a place with a lot of really, really old buildings. It's 40 acres because to be zoned ag in our county, all these things. But our thought was we'll rent out the tillable, and then eventually we'll get some cows. And because I grew up on a beef farm, but it was just, how do you make a living off of that kind of land, right? So that was never in the plan. And then fast forward to that 2020, the farm stand, it was super fun. I just thought, well, we probably won't do this again next year, though. It doesn't make sense financially, right? We're not the that just, how do you do this? And I had seen some flower farms on social media, and I was very involved in floriculture in high school and FFA, but that was a whole different, ball game. And so I, just kind of thought, well, we'll see what happens next year. And then that December of 2020 was when he passed away of a heart attack while running on the treadmill. And I found out I was pregnant the day after the funeral with our second child.
Man. I mean, okay, so I'm like, I'm going to go deep here. Take us back to December, and then picking up the pieces and deciding you have to move forward. Obviously, you're pregnant with a second child. What do you do?
So our first daughter had just turned 3 2 days before he passed away. And my sister moved in with me. She had just graduated college. She had been living with my other sister, and she got accepted to a nursing program. And so she was kind of in between jobs. And so she was 22 at the time. And she said, I'll come in, I'll move in with you for, 6 months, a year, whatever that looks like. And I said, well, you're not leaving in 6 months because this baby's coming in like 7 months or 8 months, 9 months, whatever that is.
I'm going to leave you.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can't leave right before the baby's born. And so I took 3 months off of work. And this is something that we won't go off into a tangent here, but I was very fortunate in the fact that I was working full time. So I qualified for FMLA, so Family Medical Leave Act. I could take 12 weeks off under, essentially, it was a short-term disability under the medical diagnosis of grief reaction. Whereas if I hadn't been full time, they would have given me 2 days of bereavement leave. And, that's the reality of it. And that's something I do talk about, just importance of if you're widowed young and that preparation and, all of those things. And so I had that 12 weeks to take off. And then in the meantime, we didn't know how he passed away for sure. We didn't have the death certificate yet because COVID delayed the autopsy. So for 3 months, everyone was like, what happened? I'm like, he might have hit his head, but it was probably a heart attack. But we didn't know for sure until that autopsy came back. And so when you can't get a death certificate, you can't do any reconcile any accounts. You can't apply for life insurance. You can't do anything. And so it was just a lot of waiting around and looking around this property. And I'll never forget when our insurance agent came out and we were trying to switch, and he was a good friend of ours. And we had like 18 old outbuildings because this farm has been everything. It has been a dairy farm. It's been a blacksmith shop. It's been a butcher shop. Like it used to be USDA inspected. It was just a long line of entrepreneurs and innovative farmers. They had a sawmill here. People would bring their logs and they would saw their lumber here. Like I said, the blacksmith shop. They had hogs here at one point. And it's always just kind of been everything. Well, when the same property stays in the family for that many generations and the next people just kind of buy it and move in, it never quite gets, cleaned out and all of these old outbuildings. And I'm like, I'm paying $100 a month to insure each of these old empty buildings. Like what? I can't stay here. Like this property isn't meant to just have as a hobby. There's some really good outbuildings. There's some really ones that, are tough and, just realizing like what the property taxes were, all of those things. But I knew that I did not want to be the reason that the Century Farm sign got taken down. And maybe we weren't farming the way the previous generations had been, but I just thought, no, he would want me to try to keep this land if I can. And that was just kind of in the back of my mind was, I don't want to move, but I might have to. We'll see what happens. The house was 130 years old. We had plans. We had drafts drawn up already to build a new house once I was done with grad school, which I had been for a year at that point. And, we were that couple that was like doing everything right. Again, he grew up on a dairy farm. I grew up on a cow-calf operation. I went to college in Brookings, South Dakota. All of my friends were ag majors. I was the only non-ag major. Honestly, I went for nursing because I didn't know where else I fit in. I didn't know what my place was going to be.
Did you say your sister was nursing as well?
So she ended up going back for nursing after she has her degree in ag communications and ag journalism. And actually she works for the Stockman magazine. I don't know. So she does the social media for that too.
I just didn't know. I didn't know where like the medical side came in that you all are.
My mom's a PA.
Okay.
So mom always had a job off the farm. And I think in the back of my mind in my teens, and I look at that now as, I'm 36 and I look back at that and think like, did you just think you could marry a farmer if you had a medical degree? Maybe that was it. That was part of the nursing, but we didn't really crop farm a whole lot. We had a lot. My brothers still raise seed stock with my dad. They have Simmental and Angus cattle. And so and then my dad does a lot of order buying and he auctioneers and, my youngest brother's on the judging team down at K-State and he's still in college. So, very
Manhattan.
Yep.
Little
So
Apple.
he was the first of us to not go to SDSU, and there's 6 of us. He just broke the mold and he went off to a junior college. He went to Butler and then he went to down to K-State. But so it's definitely like always been in my roots, but the flower farm, it's really, trying to, I really take the education piece seriously. And I think that's what sets my farm apart a little bit is I treat it like small scale farming instead of, it's not large scale gardening. I mean, we've got tractors, we've got tunnels, we've got irrigation, we've got, just a pretty rigid schedule. We have, spreadsheets and projections of what's supposed to be blooming when, and, just realizing what things and what experiences people want, because this is kind of their gateway to agriculture, and it gets their foot in the door.
It really is. Okay, so a few things off of this I want to ask you. Well, one, I know the weather's been weird this year. So has that like delayed planting for you, or like what flowers you're planting?
Not necessarily what we're planting, but
Okay.
bloom times. So like
Okay.
our peonies, I have 1,000 established peony plants and another roughly 500 that will be ready to produce. And it takes like 3 years to reliably get a cut off of them. But once they're ready to go, you get 10 to 20 stems per plant. And those, I mean, especially the colors that we have, right? So it's the yellows or the corals that are really set aside for brides. And they just, like those yellow peonies, they can't get them anywhere else. And so they're behind a couple weeks, but it's been interesting, like watching the markets, watching the pricing with the price of fuel. And, it's hard because florists are turning to local farms, and, it's hard because our costs are going up too. But I'm like, well, I can't justify, I don't need to raise my prices 30% like they have, so some things I can help them get it a little bit more affordable. And then some things it's like, well, supply and demand. I can't just,
Yeah.
I need to raise my prices
You
too
have
a
to
little.
still run a business. It's
Yep,
a big
exactly.
business.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of things, let's go into the responsibility. Obviously, you came from a farming family, like you said, and you're like, you guys are ranchers, and I don't know, you understand, I don't even know how I want to say this, but like the weight of like maybe generations feel to carry that on, right?
Yes.
Like I'm sure you do, your brother, you guys all understand that. And that's a big hot topic right now too, I think, especially like multi-generational ranches and farms. You having this farm that was your late husband's family. Like, talk about the weight that was for you to feel like, okay, can I make this work and stay here? Should I stay here? Like, what do we do here?
Well, I think what really got it for me. So last year I ended up building it's, I don't know, around 4,000 square feet. We have an event venue, and sorry, I don't mean to say it like, oh, it's just,
No,
but
no, I'm like, that's cool.
that's
cool.
so we have an event venue and massive walk-in cooler and farm store, and then we keep all of our supplies down there, and then we use our old outbuilding. So like the old butcher shop is what got us to where we are. We were using this cooler from the 1960s. I mean, the rails are still there. The customers would come in and they're like, what are those things? I'm like, those are the hooks. Those are the hooks. And once you start doing, $8,000, $10,000 weddings for clients, I'm like, maybe butcher shop's not the vibe anymore, but that's okay. I ended up expanding my team. I hired some designers, some people with floral design experience, and everyone in the floral world thinks that I'm a little bit crazy for like, I just want to be the farmer. I want to be outside. I want to get my hands dirty. I want to, focus on that stuff. I continue, teaching, educating, helping others grow their farm. And, that piece, if I'm the one out there pulling weeds, I'm cool with that. If I know that the flowers are being designed, and if I can do the sales and meet with the bride and get the vision and know exactly what kind of flowers she wants, what's going to be blooming that month, then, we can do it that way. But when I realized that, okay, to invest in this farm, and if I'm going to stay here, I did not want it to be, option one. I quit doing the flowers, and every year it just kept growing and growing. I mean, I'm pretty transparent with like the numbers and the reality of it. I mean, the first year in the farm stand, we sold like $7,000 worth of flowers. Then the next year after he passed away, I sold about $25,000 worth of flowers. And then the next year it was like 80,000. And then the next year it was like $150,000 worth of flowers at Kirby. I'm not kidding. It was at $30 a pop, 5,000 bouquets, a $30 bouquet, 300 a week for 20 some weeks. And it was crazy. I would bring these buckets of flowers to breweries or different places, and people were just like lined out the door to make their bouquet. And then like twice a week, we opened up the farm to U-Picks. And it was just, and I was growing as many flowers as I could get, but the zinnias and the sunflowers and the cosmos and the things that you normally see at U-Picks, but not necessarily what the brides want. Not necessarily like those premium things that translate into the weddings or into those events. And so, it's like, how much space do we have? How much time do we have? Like, what things do I want to keep growing? And then within a year, I saw that I was competing with myself. I saw that it's the same product. And so it was like, literally I would offer something and it was like a cannibal business model is what I called it. I was like, this is not going to work. This is not going to keep up. I can't keep getting, and I had maybe 500 customers that bought 10 bouquets a year. Oh so God. It was, it still was well, but I'm like, what if I cut that down to 100 customers that spent, I think our average wedding is $3,400 for wedding flowers. And then I kept getting asked to bring those flowers to corporate places and do a workshop or something like that. And then I kept getting asked to bring flowers to bridal showers and things like that. And I'm like, what if, where's it at? How do we bring it back here? And everyone just kept using the word just. And then they're like, the shower's just in my mom's basement. The shower's just at the church. The shower's just, and they kept saying just. And I'm like, well, what if you could come to my farm? What if I had a place that was like air conditioned? I didn't have to load up all these flowers in, our enclosed trailer and all of this labor and all of this work. And I ended up starting I have a mastermind of like 60 flower farmers that once a month we still meet after 3 years, like those that originally joined it. We still meet once a month and we call it peddling perishable products. So like that's what it is you go there and you just hope that someone buys your perishable flowers. And if you bring enough for 30 bouquets, if only 10 sell, you just lost all that money on those 20 that didn't sell, because you can't just like put them back in the cooler and sell them next week. And so I just kept realizing that it needs to be here, and people want to come here and people want to see it and people want to see where it's grown. They want to see the story. They know the story behind my late husband and I'm remarried now. He is 10 out of 10, the best, the best support system ever, like helping with all of this. But I just realized that, door number one is I stay a nurse practitioner and I got to just throw in the towel because this is not sustainable. And I use the sustainable kind of differently than the sustainable buzzword, as in, I think it's, her name's Lexi Wright, and she has a podcast called Farming on Purpose. And she always says, if it's not sustainable for the family that's doing the work, then it's not sustainable. Like if you can't do it, it's not a sustainable practice. And that's where I'm like, how do we do this? And then door number two was I invest in this farm. It becomes I take a huge risk that literally bet the entire farm on it. But what does it look like in 20 years when my daughters are 28 and 25? And door number one, they want to come back to dad's farm, the dad they don't remember, the dad that I held onto this for because I wanted them to see it. And, it's a home. It's a pretty home on 40 acres, very close to suburban area, probably gets sold to a housing development, best case scenario, and property taxes, and they can't even afford to come back. Or it is a revenue generating asset as a business that can hopefully support both of them someday if they want it.
Yeah. Gosh, I have so many questions here because
so much.
So much. You're very business minded. You said your dad's an order buyer. So I understand, like you guys think that way. Obviously, you love the land, you love the business, blah, blah, but it's a business. Like obviously you've been structured that way. Have you always had this business sense? Like, or who did that come from in your family? Like, where did that come from?
I have always had this work ethic, insane work ethic. Like I would work, I would babysit and then I would go work at the nursing home. And then, we had show heifers and, but we joke because my older brothers, so my brothers, Weber Bros Cattle Company, I'm going to give them a shout out, Jake and Garrett, but
I've heard of them. I know.
Yeah. Okay. So when I was there, like when we were younger and in high school, Jake wouldn't let me touch them. He's like, you can't touch the heifers. You can't, you can work on the sale calves or something like that. And then my sisters and I joke that by the time they got into high school and my brothers were in their 20s, they're like, oh, hey, this is labor and we can't, whatever. So then they like had to do it. Like I was not allowed to, and they had to, it was just this like funny, and we joke about it now and it's the dynamic. But I was never, I don't know. I was always just kind of on the cusp of that. Like, I don't want to sit here and say, oh, I was in the show barn every morning and whatever. Like I will fully admit I got sheep because I wanted my own project and I wanted my own thing. And so I had my club lambs that I showed, because, they had their thing with the show cattle, and, it was just, kind of that dynamic there. But I think the business part of it, I guess I've always gone into this thinking like, okay, you can Google, what does a full-time nurse practitioner make? Because right after I graduated, I went back to school. My husband and I had met. So I talk about my husbands in the present tense. We got, let's do a little bio quick. We got late husband, Josh, husband in heaven, late husband, Josh. We have husband on earth, current husband, Brent. So if you're listening and it sounds like I have two husbands, it's because I do, but bear with me. It's okay. But when I met Josh, I was 22 years old. I had just graduated from nursing school. My aunt said, hey, come move to St. Cloud. You can live in my basement for free and I can get you a job in the hospital here. And I said, oh, okay, I'll do that for a year. My best friend moved up here with me. She got a job. They worked at a company called Egg Star, which is now Compeer. And that's where I met my late husband, Josh. He was actually Nikki's boss. And so like it's this whole thing, but I decided to go back to grad school right away because I'm driven, and how do you continue?
You have that drive.
How do you
have a
continue?
great work ethic.
And we thought someday we'll have some sort of hobby farm, and our kids can be in 4-H or whatever. Yep. But we'll have these jobs. And he worked off the farm. He worked in egg lending, so he worked supporting farmers. And so we just we never knew that his family farm was going to come up for sale. His mom had passed away, Mary, and that's where the name Sunny Mary Meadow comes from, and his dad decided he was going to retire, and it was somewhat abruptly. And it was like, hey, the farm is for sale. The property is for sale. He basically gave us first right of refusal to buy it. And it was while I was in grad school. It wasn't a great time for us to sell our house in town that we were like, oh, we can afford this mortgage on his income while I'm in grad school. But we made it work. And I guess the whole time that I've been doing this is just realizing that, okay, Google what a full-time nurse practitioner makes. I'm like, well, I need to at least make that. I need to at least, figure this out. And I think that's been like my business mindset of it.
Yeah. Again, it's just so admirable, your drive and your work ethic. But when you talk about your family, it makes sense, because I think that's a huge thing. Obviously growing up in the industry and then showing sheep, you learn this different sense of responsibility that you just, whether it comes to you naturally or not, like you just do it. Right. And so you could just tell that you're such a driven person, but you're not afraid of work, and you have this foresight, obviously, to be like, okay, where are we going and what does this look like, and how do I want this to look like? So talking about all this now, like your daughters, obviously they're still really young, but they probably have a fun time out on the farm and with the flowers. Again, flowers make people happy. Like flowers and ice cream, right? Like we're making people happy.
Well, and that's, truly, that's exactly it. Flowers make people happy. And I think that's what really just helped me keep leaning into them year after year after he passed away. I'm like, I'm not happy on the inside, right? But at least like I can show people these flowers of something that they've never seen before. Like here's a ranunculus, or here's a lysianthus, or just things that they don't normally see at the grocery store, right? And they're smiling and they're happy. And, for our daughters, I'm not kidding when I say I really am okay with whatever they end up deciding to do, of course. But if you don't prepare for the next generation, if you don't plan for someone to come in or plan to at least try to make a way for them, then it's not going to happen. And so my whole plan has been, okay, let's try to have this set up that when whether they go to college or not, or, come back or whatever they might end up doing, say 15 years from now, then, whether they buy into it or, they take this part over, or maybe the building that I built, it's pretty raw bones as far as what it could be turned into. I almost put a commercial kitchen in it. I almost upgraded the septic thinking like, well, someday, just in case they want a winery or they want a restaurant or they want a something like that on the farm. And I'm like, that's an extra $200,000. I feel like if they want to do that someday, they can do it. I'm not going to do that. That's not on my bingo card. It's way easier to just hire a food truck to come out during some of our events than it is to also run, and trust me, I thought about all those scenarios with all of our events. I mean, we could get a lot more money if we sold food, and we have it's called a consumption and display permit. So literally people can legally BYOB. They can bring their own alcohol here, which makes it really unique with food laws in Minnesota, because if you sell alcohol, you have to also sell food. Well, if you sell food, people can't bring in outside food. And so it's just this whole, because of, safety reasons or whatever. And so people can bring their own, they can either cater it or they can cater part of it, make their own parts. So really there's a lot of opportunity for, if they're interested in accounting or social media or, any of those pieces. I have 3 essentially freelance florists that work for me on a pretty consistent basis. But otherwise I just have like 1099 employees that do little tiny bits and pieces of things. And I just look at what my weaknesses are and I hire out all of that stuff. And so really there's a lot of opportunities, whether they like flowers or they like business or they want to turn it into something else.
Yeah. And like you said, social media, I want to go off of that because you mentioned Pinterest earlier and you talked about social media. So in the space that you're in, obviously for events, weddings, brides, you name it, but parties, whatever you want to say, people get ideas like a lot from social media and Pinterest now. Has that changed the landscape of like how you have to deliver and the expectations of people, I guess? The expectations are challenging.
So this is what's funny, Kirby. Everyone keeps telling me like, why would you want to work with brides and why would you want to go into weddings and the wedding industry? I'm like, it'll be fine. And I've learned lessons the hard way. I've always been, very, very, if you make a mistake, you apologize, things like that. But I didn't realize, just in the photography world, right? If a bride sends you a picture, I would have in the early days of my weddings, when we started adding them. And again, I hired someone that was a wedding florist for 7 years that did a lot of the design. And I'm not chopped liver. I do a lot of it, but she's like, why would you have anyone else shoot the free throw for a technical when you have Michael Jordan on the bench, right?
Yeah,
like that's how I describe her. And so she makes all the bridal bouquets, and then she does a lot of the like recipe planning and ordering. And I meet with the brides, and like I'll just do the grunt work and set stuff up, and I'll make the big arrangements, but she makes a lot of those like the things that are going to be close-ups and photos. She's more of the artist. But so I would have brides text me pictures, the next week, like, hey, here's my 15 sneak peek photos. And I'm like, oh, can I share these? And they're, yeah, sure. And so one time I did, and it's like just attacked from the wedding photography world. Like, you cannot use my photos without permission. And I'm like, I didn't just not even something I remotely thought about. Right. Yeah. But the wedding industry is such a referral, word of mouth. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's, so I ended up creating a whole new, email address, like within my Gmail, specific for like, so that it lives in there. Cause like, that's how my organization brain is. And then I have a little postcard I give out for every single wedding. And I'm like, can you give this to the florist so that I know, or to the photographer, like, please tag me in your gallery. And then that way, whenever, because you're constantly having to go back. And but it is a pretty fun, like, social media world as far as brides are hiring content creators now, and like when someone comes out, you're right. And then when someone comes out, so we do something called Flower League at our farm, and so it's one
interesting name. Okay, Flower
League. So instead of like golf league, flower league. So once a month you get your bouquet, and we have like 20 ladies that are like league members. So it's every month for 7 months. And then the rest, like 50 tickets are just up for sale. And we've sold out like 2 weeks prior every single time. Like the June, I think, has 10 tickets left. And it's May as we record this. But, you know, everyone creates things, and then they'll make their own like fully edited reel of their experience, and then they'll invite you to collaborate. I'm like, okay, accept. Yeah. And then
thank you.
And then I get 20 new followers. And then, you know, we're looking at adding things like, instead of the U picks, we're going to do something called BYOV, bring your own vase. So they can still wander the fields, see it, but then like everything comes out of our cooler, like as we need it. And it's pre-picked. And, you know, because I don't want, especially if our weddings that weekend are pinks and yellows and purples or whatever, well, then maybe we didn't need a lot of our white and orange flowers. So then guess what? You guys are all getting white and orange flowers in your, you know, whatever. It's a lot of like keeping track of some of that stuff. And we do still supplement, you know, from other farmers, other growers, other wholesalers. I do still use, you know, imported flowers, but to achieve the look that the brides want. But like, yeah, the social media piece of it, when it gets to that type of thing, it's easier in those like collaboration, because you got people making content for you.
Yeah, and you're like, this is great.
Yeah, and then, you know, and it's very aesthetically pleasing and very, you know, whatever. But it's also, maybe it's not your art. And I say that, you know, just something I had never even thought of. Like I did not, you know, and I'm like, I apologize. Like, I will give you credit. I
respect it. I get it. But
I didn't even think about it. Like I should have known better, but I didn't. I'm sorry. I used your photos without tagging you.
You're like, hey, but it was a great photo. So,
it was a great photo. Can I tag you now? Yeah.
I've got to ask, has your cooler ever went out?
Yes. Which is why we now have the two.
Okay. I was like thinking about that. I was like, oh no.
So our cooler is also, I mean, this beast of a machine. I don't even know what brand it is. Like, it's from the 50s or 60s, like our old cooler is. And it's, you know, stainless steel, and the door is just heavy. Like there's one gal that works here. She cannot open it. Like, she's just this tiny little thing. And I'm like, I'll open it for you. And so, yeah, that went out 2 years ago. The fan quit working in the motor, and we had probably 2,000 peonies in there. And I like posted on social. Yeah. And everyone's like, do you need a generator? I'm like, we can't, because it's not plugged in. Like, it's hardwired. Like, so there is no, like, it's hardwired into the building. Like, it's not plugged in, you know? And so now, I mean, we have a like display cooler, refrigerator, you know, kind of as a backup. But then now our big cooler, it's a company called Coolbot. And so it's window ACs. And then there's a device that overrides it and gets it down to in the 30s.
Oh my, I just feel like that would be stressful, like thinking about, if the cooler went out. Sure, I mean, oh my gosh. Okay, wait. Our sweet producer, like I told you, she is so fun, and she makes these great questions. So I want to get to these before we run out of time, because I could talk to you about so many things all day long, I feel like. Okay, but this is a fun game. It's called Bloom or Bust. Oh. And so you tell me if you think you'd thrive in these situations or be completely overwhelmed.
Okay.
Running the only flower farm in the state during wedding season.
Bloom.
You're like, I got this. Yeah, you're on top of it. Hosting an event with 0 cell service. I wonder.
But Bloom. Well, so like, can't look anything up. I could ad lib. I could fill it in. I could figure it out, because you got to keep the attention of everyone. I'm guessing that's what she meant with that. So I'm gonna say Bloom. I could handle it. Yeah.
Setting up shop at an early morning farmer's market every weekend.
Bust. I don't do farmers markets. Like, I'm not gonna bring all my stuff, and if it doesn't sell, I throw it away. Like, no, screw that. Like, no farmers markets. Bust.
Owning alpacas or goats.
Bloom. I could do that. Yeah. I think someday we're gonna add some. We got 3 cows and about 30 chickens, and yeah,
See?
yeah, bloom.
Writing another book.
Bloom. I got
Yeah?
another one in me.
How long did it take you the first time around?
Well, 5 years because I wrote it in real time.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, but are you a journaler, or like, do you write? Like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So you didn't start, well, I was going to say you didn't already have it kind of journaled up. Like it was just, well, I guess kind of
But it would have been a lot easier. The next book will be easier because I will make an outline and say,
Okay.
well, these are what the chapters are. And I'll write it like you would actually write it.
Well, hey. Which I already know the answer for this one. Deliver a speech with no notes.
Blue.
You could easily do that.
I could do that.
Oh, well, this is funny. Starting a coffee shop at the farm.
Bust. We already covered that. I will hire a coffee truck to come out here because otherwise I'm going to be making lattes at 7 a.m.
I feel like if you did have something permanently there, people would never leave. They'd be there probably all the time.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want that. No.
Pre-recording no longer works, so you can only go live from now on.
I think I would bloom, but not as well.
You're like, okay, we're going now, doctor's orders. I'll give you some situations and then you tell me how you might remedy them. You overbought a specific flower.
I would post that we are having not a flash sale, that we have an abundance of beautiful flowers and come on out. And we've got, the season of this is so short and this is rare and we have it right now. Come on out.
Play on words, The weather isn't cooperating on the day you want to plant. That's probably happened before, I'm sure.
It's happening today. It's raining.
Yeah.
And I wanted to plant this afternoon. Then just wait till the next day. Change all your plans. So I would maybe bloom. I don't know.
You accidentally double booked an event. Has that happened before? You're a calendar person, so
I'm a calendar person, but I mean, to me, I would just ask for forgiveness. I would just and I'd say, hey, y'all want to? Hey, Kirby, meet Liz. Can we do this group all together? I'll give this group a discount. Like, can we? Because what do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do?
They want you to start selling emotional support chickens.
Bust. I'm not playing into that stuff. I'm not doing that. That's part of the responsibility piece, right? Like I will not sell my flowers and say that local good, imported evil. Like, no, I'm going to say that, these are the differences and this is why, but I'm not going to like that fear mongering. Nah, emotional support chickens. Nah, nope.
You're like, not for me. You keep adding projects to an already long list.
Bloom. Yeah.
You're like, you have burnout right before the busiest season. Wait, what is the busiest season for like you guys up there?
So
year round.
I'm actually really proud to say that I've intentionally, like we're not quite there yet, but we're getting to where it's just pretty steady. Like but it's nice because speaking season, conference season is kind of in the winter. And then, when we plant the flowers, and then wedding season for us is like June through October. And then November, December, now that we have the event venue, we do like Christmas parties and wreath making. Like everyone wants to come and make their own wreath, but like that's easy. Like you just plan it out and whatever. So we don't have a busy season, but I don't want a busy season. Like I don't, that cortisol that I just want steady. I just want steady. Yeah.
Okay. This game's Would You Rather. Would you rather grow flowers in 100-degree heat or host a wedding in pouring rain?
Heat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Does it get that hot?
I can suffer. I don't want the bride to get rained on. Like I can suffer one day of my work.
You're like, it'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you rather speak to 5,000 people or arrange flowers for 5 straight days? Well, you probably have done both.
Yeah, 5,000 people for sure. I did a webinar of like 3,000 recently, but I just pretended like there was one person. It's okay.
Yeah, you're like, yeah. Would you rather lose coffee for a week or your phone for a week? Ooh, that is a tough one.
I could go without my phone. I'll just
Like, it would be
answer
nice.
emails and from my desktop.
Would you rather live 1 year with no social media or no Amazon deliveries?
Amazon deliveries, because social media is my business.
Yep.
That's how I market my business.
Would you rather be stuck in planting season or wedding season? But
wedding season, probably.
yeah,
I got more help than.
you're like, there's people here. There's, escapism. It happens. Would you rather do flower arrangements all night or wake up at 4 a.m. for setup?
4 a.m. for setup. I'm an early.
You're an early person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you rather host a retreat for strangers or a holiday for extended family?
Retreat for strangers.
I was going to say, that's always a good one.
Absolutely. I mean, we got a group of 30 people coming tonight that are coming. Sweet.
You're like,
Yeah.
Okay. Off of those, those are always so fun. Just, just something different. But we do like break the ice, and sometimes I start with it in the beginning, sometimes I don't. But this is just like obviously off the cuff, like people to, know something about you that's maybe people don't know. What's your favorite writing location?
I wouldn't say location. It's always at my desktop. It's always at home. Like I've only written at home. I'll add things on my phone from my voice memo, like into my Google Docs, but I like to write in the quiet hours in the morning between like 4 and 6:30. That's when the majority of things get written.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's interesting. What's something that makes you laugh?
My kids, like Davy is 5 and she is the funniest. Like she's so funny. The things that she finds funny, and then when they get each other going and then they're laughing, and it's just like, what are you laughing at? And it's like, I don't even, their humor is the bar is so low, but like when they really get going, that's when I start laughing.
Oh, I love that. Do you have a hidden talent? You probably do. But you probably use most of your talents. Like,
yeah,
you're like,
I honestly, I'm a pretty extroverted person. I don't think there's much to hide. I think that I have found out talents about myself, as far as, when I went through expanding my business, and, we didn't get too much into this, but the permitting process and learning rules about agritourism and, our county's comprehensive plan and, county commissioners and just people's ideas of what is or isn't farming. It went pretty, it was like the top story in the entire state of Minnesota. And I just, one of my cousins is an attorney, and that's, who I never had to hire an attorney. I just ran a few questions by him occasionally, but I'm pretty good at staying solid in my own convictions. Like when I know something is right, like I'm not going to let someone push me around. I'm not going to let someone convince something. And so I would say I'm pretty good in, my hidden talent would be maybe being able to interpret things, or like just, I'm even through nurse practitioner school, I learned by, someone would lecture and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I can read a textbook and like completely understand it and comprehend it. I can read a law or a policy or a statute from the state, and I'm like, that's what that means. And I am within the law. And so I would say that, like, just being able to interpret policies is something that sounds weird to say that's a hidden talent, but like, some people, I don't know what this means, or, run this through ChatGPT. Am I correct here? But that's like, I don't do that sometimes, but.
if you could watch one movie or read one book for the rest of your life, or both, like watch a movie and, one book, what would they be?
My favorite movie is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen.
The book is good too.
Yep, but the book is good too. So honestly, probably the book too. I love the Harry Potter books.
Oh yeah.
Grew up on those. And yeah, my 8-year-old daughter has just read them for the second time. We went to Harry Potter World.
Yeah.
I'm a big Harry Potter fan.
Yeah. But those books, like, because we're the same age. And so growing up, remember when they released them and they're like so beautiful.
And it was so beautiful. And it was just like, you had this, I have all hardcovers and I had to buy the paperback set for my daughter because she's like 8 and her like little backpack. And she's like, Mom, I can't carry the hardcover. And I'm like, okay. So I bought the whole box set of paperbacks. So now I have 2 sets of it. Plus I have it on audiobook.
Yeah, but honestly, how fun for her to and for you too, for her to be reading that series and knowing grew up reading that. Do you have a distinct moment of pride that's something that you just are really, really proud of?
Anytime someone comes out here to the farm, honestly, they come in, and especially now we just opened our event space. We've hosted probably 20 bridal showers here. When people that have lived in the area forever and they're like, wow, this property, I don't even recognize it. And I don't mean that as any, it was a different purpose. It was a working dairy farm prior, and it's transformed into a gorgeous venue location. And that took a lot of hard work and a lot of grit. And when people that appreciate the work behind it compliment me and my husband, Brent, now, I would say that gives me a lot of pride.
Yeah, I bet it does. And it should. I know we're running out of time, so we'll wrap up soon. So I only have a couple more things. But, when people are watching this or they're listening or they've, read your books or they follow you on social media or anything, seen you, speak at a conference or visit your guys' farm, what's the one thing you want them to take away from you, your family, your story, the farm? What's something that you want people to just, take away from you, who you are?
I think, so there's a lot of things that we touched on in this episode. There's a lot of things we didn't get to, but that's because we just can't. But I released a memoir, Flowers Bloom Anyway, Rebuilding a Life You Didn't Choose. And to me, life did not go as planned. And how I end pretty much every keynote speech that I give, and I speak to a lot of financial and professional insurance places. I speak at a lot of women's conferences, a lot of ag places, and, just different organizations. And I always end it the same way, no matter which keynote you're getting, no matter which breakout, whatever. I show a picture of my late husband, Josh's obituary. Mm-hmm. And I tell the story that the funeral director was like, this is getting too long. It's going to be, it's going to be over $1,000 in the local newspaper. Like, it's so long, and I just looked at him and I said, we're not done yet. And, your obituary is a written summary of your life choices, the impact you had on your family, on the people around you, on the community, how you spent your time, what you volunteered, what you did for work, what your hobbies were. And we are all responsible for what is on our own obituary. And for me, I think about that whenever I'm contemplating doing something or I'm scared or it's risky. And it's, she had this really good idea. And when we were trying to decide if we were going to really invest, this was 2 years ago when we were like, should we do this or not? Should we build this, cause I can always go back to being a nurse practitioner. Like we're at a fork in a road. And I remember looking at my husband, Brent, and I'm like, I don't want my obituary to say she started this really great business and she had this great following and she was doing this, amazing thing, but, and she got scared. So she didn't. I'm like, no, absolutely not. And I just think that if we all live life that way, like, hey, we're writing our own obituary and at least it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Wait, I love that so much. I always like to end, and you kind of just wrapped it up right there though. Like, and it's different for you because you've, wrote a book and again, you speak so well and you speak across the US and beyond, but like we always try to do like Dear Diary. So for you, I would like for you to say, if you're writing an entry in your diary and it was to your daughters, and you know, your time here on earth is done and gone, and you've done what, you know, you could, and you were the mom, you were the wife, you were the family member, you were, you know, the community member, all the things. But if you wanted your daughters to know something and it said Dear Diary, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to spend your 20s building your safety net. Like, just, you know, set that foundation, work hard, you know, have a plan, and then you can continue to take the risks you want in life and continue to bloom in whatever direction you want.
Love that. There we go. Again, there's so much we didn't get to touch on. We might have to do this again. But if people want to follow you, if they want to listen to you, if they want to buy your book, tell them where can they do all of that.
So my podcast is called Rooted Agritourism. You can find me I'm mostly on Instagram, Fiedler Mergen. Of course, the Rooted Agritourism podcast has its own page. And then my flower farm is called Sunny Mary Meadow. So LizFiedlerMergen.com will get you anywhere. So it'll get you to all the places. Yep.
We love that. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me on Dirt Diaries. Like I said, I feel like we could just fill up well over an hour very easily, but I know we're out of time today, and look forward to just following along your journey and seeing everything that you've got going on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, tune in next week for another episode of Dirt Diaries. Ba-dum-bum. That's it for today's episode of Dirt Diaries, where the women of ag leave no story untold. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone else. Until next time, keep showing up, speaking out, and getting your hands dirty.